Hello, this is TJ Chofi, and I'm here with Holly Rigoli. We are so excited. You are listening to the first episode of the Legit Real Estate Podcast. Holly, say hi to the people.
Hello, everyone. Super excited.
So I'm so excited. So what's excited about this? And I gotta give you all the credit. This was definitely Holly's like brainchild about what we should do for a podcast. Because what we're not going to do is sit around and talk about the market, right? So if you want to learn about the market and how many houses are on the market in the state of Rhode Island or in the country, well, look at there's enough podcasts, I feel, to do that kind of stuff, right? But what we're gonna do, actually, why don't you tell everybody what our intentions are with this podcast, Holly? Go for it.
All right. So, TJ and I have been in real estate for a very long time. We're both real estate agents, we're both investors. I was in property management for several years. So, along the years of our in our field, we have come across some pretty crazy stories. Some of them that are going to be hilarious. Some of them are going to be kind of creepy and scary, and some of them might make you cry. But we've got some pretty funny, interesting, crazy stories that we're happy to share with you, so you can get a little bit of fun out of them.
Yeah, it was cool because when you are with the general public as much as we are, you meet all kinds of weird and quirky people, right? There's a lot of cool stories that we hear in the office or in our communication with other realtors, and some of them, like you said, some of them make you laugh, and others are like, "What the hell is going on with these people?" Right? So, um, we'll talk about different buyers and different sellers, but today what we want to talk about is really some stuff we've seen on showings or in properties, right? So I don't know what we're going to title this episode, but we're going to give it a cool title. But again, thank you for tuning in. And what we're not going to do is just bore the shit out of you with statistics and pie charts, because I think that if you want a pie chart, there's plenty of places you can get it. So I wanted to start with this story, right? So I'm showing a house in Southern Rhode Island. And Southern Rhode Island's a little different than my regular market, Holly, where I usually do stuff. So it's a lot more rural. This guy had a whole bunch of land, right? So in this particular case, I'm showing a house, and in the backyard, I just said I don't want any charts. I should have like a whiteboard behind me to draw that shit. There was this mound, and it was like, I don't know, it looked like it could have been natural, but then on the other side, it was like, this doesn't feel right. So we're standing on top of the mound, me and the buyer, and like I think his kid was with us or whatever. And the neighbor comes out. He's like, I wouldn't stand on that mound if I was you. Well, whatever, man. You hear all kinds of neighbors, right? They got all kinds of stuff going on. So I'm standing on the mound. The neighbor comes over. Now he doesn't go, he keeps his distance from where he's like, I want you to know that the people you're buying that house over, they used to bury their horses. What are you talking about, brother? What are you talking about? You're burying your horses. He said, so apparently these people would have horses, and we were buying the house off. It was a flip, so it wasn't the guy we were buying it off. But the people before him, one of their practices was to bury the horses underground.
How many
So
horses are buried there?
he said at least two that he knew of, because I asked the same question. I'm like, what do you mean? Are we in like the pet cemetery over here? Right? Because like, no, of course he scared my buyers away. It was a great house too, but the buyers were like, nah, F this. Like if he's burying horses, what else has he got going on?
Oh
So
my God.
yeah, so that was random.
I want to know whoever bought that house, what they did with the horses, or if they like mounded up more dirt so that it didn't like look like a giant mound in the middle of the yard.
You would think at one point the horse, whatever you bury, I would feel like whatever you bury would decompose.
Yeah, and a horse is big. It's gonna leave a big divot in the ground.
It's not like the guy,
Ugh.
I know people who have had little, I'm going to bury my cat in the corner of the yard, right? I bury my dog and put a
Yeah,
little,
but a
you
horse is
got a
kind of
horse.
big.
Those things are like the size of like four humans, right? Isn't a horse like 1,000 pounds?
Yeah.
So at some point, and then, summer comes, you got to feel like there's got to be some kind of like smell associated with like a decomposing horse. So that in the last calendar year, I must say that was like the most interesting thing I saw on a showing was a horse. And thank God for that neighbor, because other than that, my clients would be calling me up. And I like to be, in our field, you like to be the guy that can get anything done, right? Like I
Mhm.
know a guy for that. Like I know a plumber, I know an electrician. I do not know like a dead animal removal specialist. Like I don't know
Yeah.
that guy.
Because even if you got someone now, the only thing I could think of is just burying it deeper, having somebody come with an excavator and like putting it further down so it's not obvious. Because where the hell are you gonna like relocate that
Right, right. You can't just bag it up,
to?
you
Oh my
know?
God.
You'd be like, yeah, I don't know. That sounds like a Criminal Minds where you like bagging up the body parts. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
Dahmer special.
Oh man.
But that goes, I wonder sometimes we're in Rhode Island, so if anybody who's tuning in who's not Rhode Island, there are some parts of our state that are like dumb old, like established in 1500. Like you don't know what
Yeah.
those people were putting under the ground back then.
We still pull up some. I'm in Foster, so we're in a very old area. I know I recently sold a house that George Washington's troops camped on. So you think of the kind of things that would be found. The property itself was an old bobbin mill. It was a place that they actually made the bobbins for the mills, and the building itself at one point was a, a store, a brothel, a dance floor. Like there was so many different things over there. So the stuff you uncover from underground, like we'll still like digging the garden and stuff like that, pull out things that were like, what the hell is this stuff?
It's wicked cool when houses have like a story.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to excuse me. When I say I'm under the weather, excuse my sneezing. I'm like, I feel like,
It's a great day to start the podcast for the first time, but we
yeah,
didn't
the
we
day
didn't
that
want to
you need
give
to
in
talk.
and give up, even though TJ is sick. We've gone to record multiple times and things have gotten in the way. So I told CJ he can't let his being sick get in the way. His son even just threw up
Right.
like 2 minutes ago.
Like my son's home from school, but then I get on it and I feel bad. Like you look so nice. I'm wearing a hat. Like I have like a hangover or something. Like all I need is like the dark glasses and I'll look like half the frat boys at college. Um,
But that's
yeah. So
okay
I
because
love
we're
when
doing this
houses have
relaxed.
stories and, when you flip a house, right? So if you flip a house that was built in, I don't know, 1850, like you never know what's going to be behind those walls or under the floor. Like you just never know. Not only the homeowner doing like random improvements that they definitely would never get a permit for, but like you find stuff from
Oh
time to
yeah,
time. It's wicked cool, here.
we found teeth, like kids' teeth in the ceiling. So we had a house in Situate that we were rehabbing, and my cousin was doing something. He was doing a lot of work for me, and he was up in the ceiling, and he's like, "I just found an entire like just pile of children's teeth." I'm like, "That is really creepy." I'm really hoping that it was just parents hiding the teeth for the tooth fairy kind of thing, but who knows?
Yeah, no, that's bizarre. Like like individual teeth.
Individual children's teeth,
Maybe
a
that's where
whole
the tooth
pile.
that could be where the tooth fairy like straight up lives.
Maybe,
It could,
maybe.
it could be that because those teeth have a way of disappearing and being replaced with. By the way, off topic, but like the tooth fairy, like they're passing out tens and twenties now. Like
Uh-huh.
when I was little, it was a buck,
Hmm.
and like that's if she remembered to come because a lot of times like she may not remember. But in this house, it's like, oh shoot, can you go to the ATM in the middle of a blizzard because we need the tooth fairy money, and it's like 20 spots. Like what's this kid's doing?
It was only Christmas time that my daughter told me that she's known for a while that, the whole Santa and the tooth fairy thing are not okay, because I screw things up because I would get her a gift from us and I'd get her a gift from Santa. And then I would mix up at some point through the year and say, oh, yeah, well, when I got this. And she's like, yeah, mom, I figured that out at least a year or two ago. And she's like, and the tooth fairy was the reason why my son, years ago, I screwed up because I was trying to stick something under his pillow and he caught me. And then he's like, well, and I'm like, well, I guess it's time for you to find out, this and the Easter Bunny and Santa. And he just turns to me. He's like, what do you mean? Santa's not real? And I am just so great at screwing those things up for my kids.
Oh, so we found out. Me and my sister found out together because one of my brothers had an asthma attack like on Christmas Eve, and my father was like, "Listen, buddy, I don't know how long we're gonna be here. This is when we only had landlines, right? So there's no texting. Like, Dad called, and like I was babysitting. I mean, I might have been whatever, 2, 3, maybe 8 or 9, and he's like, "You and Laura got to bring these gifts up, or they're not going to be any gifts tomorrow." I was like, "Oh shit, Dad." What a way to find out. And we were putting labels on the wrong things. Like I thought my brother got an art set, but it was my sister's makeup. Like I don't know what's going on. did you, so tell me something you found out of showing that you didn't expect to find.
So recently,
When we talk about family anecdotes, which,
yeah,
which
yeah, yeah.
no one tuned in for on the Legit Real Estate podcast.
Yeah, well, it's real legit stuff. All right, so not too long ago, I went to go show a vacant multifamily that I had on the
Always,
market.
always scary with the vacant stuff.
So I had the guys behind me that I was supposed to be meeting because I was running late from something, and they're literally standing behind me. And I walk in the door, and I'm like, it's winter, and it's a vacant house, and I hear water running. I'm like, why? Why do I hear water running? So I walked into the house and I go to find the running water, and there is water pouring through the ceiling in one of the rooms. So I let the investors in. I said, look around. I got to go figure out where the water's coming from and shut it off. So I run up to the next floor and I see that underneath the sink, you can see that there's water all over the floor in the kitchen above. And but you can't really see, like, I shut the water from there, but it didn't stop. It was coming from above inside the wall. So then I run upstairs and I can't figure out where it's coming from upstairs. So then I ran down into the basement and there was probably a good like 4 inches of water. Now, I didn't necessarily have the right shoes to be walking in the water, but I had to shut the water off. I couldn't just let it go. And so I ran over and I found the water shut off and I managed to get the water to stop. But oh boy, it was a mess, completely
You know, everyone
unexpected.
involved is lucky you know where the main water shutoff is, because so much of the general public doesn't know where the main water shutoff is. Like, you ever been on a home inspection and the guy's pointing out where the water shutoff is, and everybody is like bewildered by this fact that you can like shut the water? It's crazy. So, did your investors buy the house with the waterfall? Is the question.
This was my house I had listed.
Oh,
So we pulled it off the market for now.
oh, take a break.
But we did find, so there was a couple. So here's the thing. We're gonna be talking about legit real estate, crazy things we've seen. Here's some lessons that to learn and to pass along, because as investors, as agents and stuff like that, this is helpful. So one, water shut off, typically in the basement, typically where the water comes into the house. You know, city water is you're gonna have a water meter, and you're gonna have the shut off pretty close to that. And so some of them are the knobs that you have to turn all the way to the right to shut off, and some of them are the little things that you turn that have to be perpendicular to the pipe. So FYI, if you ever have a water leak, go for the main if you can't isolate the water. And when you're in the woods too, like when you have a well, you've got the well expansion tank and all that stuff. You're not gonna have a water meter, but where all the water comes in, there should be a water shut off there. And I already forgot what you asked.
You mentioned, I'll tell you what, while you're on that topic, you mentioned the ones with the knobs. If you go to your water shutoff right now, and everybody who's listening should probably take 5 minutes and just go make sure you know where it is in your house if you don't already. If you have the one with the knob, call somebody while you're not in an emergency to get it replaced, because you really want the ones that are the lever. The knob ones I've seen where they just won't shut.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's the old way of doing things. 30, 40 years of no one touching something, right? It's never going to work. It's like a vacant house. It's got to breathe. So now's a good time, because the time you don't want to fix your water shut off is when you need to fix your water shut off, right? So that's key. Speaking of vacant houses, right? So I'm showing not the world's best neighborhood, and I'm meeting a client, like an online client. So I don't know these people, and I'm meeting them at the property, which, pro tip, it's recommended to meet people at the office. But anyway, I was meeting them at the property, and it's a 2 or 3 family, not the best neighborhood. The agent is not showing this house. He's like, you're on your own, man. I'm not parking my Mercedes on that street. You're going to take a lockbox code and you're going to go there yourself. Fine. So I'm on the porch and I've got a flashlight in my mouth, so I can see I needed 2 hands for the lockbox, right? One to hold it up and one to find the numbers. I got the flashlight in my mouth. When I tell you there was a homeless guy camped out on the porch that scared the life out of me, like, he was there, and like, I startled him, I'm sure, and he startled me at the same time. And when those clients, I never saw them again. Like, they were not clients. They were like, nah, this is wild. Like, I'm not looking for houses anymore. And like, you're nuts. So we both screamed. You never know what you're gonna find at a vacant property. I hear all kinds of war stories about that stuff.
Did he get up and leave?
Nah, he stayed. That's where he lived. Like, he was not getting up for me like that. And it was like, sir, I'm showing this house. And he grumbled something. I went in. I never felt more unsafe, because now Now I'm inside of a vacant house with strangers, right? And of course it was a female, so I felt responsible. And then you got this guy who's outside the door, and I'm like, this, let's get in and out of here, like
At
quick.
least you had multiple people. I went to show up to a house to show one of my clients, and he didn't show up. I'm like, you know what? I'll just videotape it. Because he's like, well, if I leave now, I'll be there in a half an hour. I'm like, I don't have half an hour to wait around for you to come. So I walked into the house. It's on lockbox, and I get in there, and I now there's no electricity, no power on, nothing like that. And I hear something downstairs. So I won't go in basements by myself when I go into houses. I do go check out a lot of houses by myself. I will not go in basements. But I started going down the stairs a little. I'm like, hello? Is anyone there? And some dude was downstairs and he's like, yeah, I'm just down here fixing the ceiling. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, there's like, I had an appointment on our showing time, our scheduling app, and there was nothing saying anybody else was going to be in there working on the house. There's no electricity, no power. I didn't know anybody was going to be there. I'm like, I don't know if this guy's legitimate. I'm like, all right, so I'm doing a live video with my client. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna videotape this, but I'm kind of getting out of here quick. And there was no lights, and it was like at dusk, so I couldn't see that well. It's
Yeah,
kind of
wicked creepy.
yeah, very
And
creepy.
you hear these stories around the country where like vagrants will go into a vacant house and then like they live there. They'll get like tenant rights after so much time, and it's kind of wild. Like, have you ever been in a situation where you met a client and they insisted that you were alone when you showed the house? Where they were
No,
like, I don't want the listing agent to be there, that kind of thing. Have you ever gotten approached like that?
not really. But if I did, I'd be a little freaked out.
Wicked creeped out, right? So that happened to me, which I wasn't as creeped out as I would be if I was a woman. But this guy, he wanted to see this house, beautiful house too, in a high price point, and the listing agent wasn't just going to let anybody wander around this house, right? So it was, I don't know, I think it was on for 800,000 back when that was like a big deal, right? Now pre inflation.
Hmm.
So the house was 800,000. It would have been one of my bigger sales at the time. And this guy wanted to meet me. I'm all excited. He pulls up, he sees the two cars. He goes, who's that other car? I said, it's the listing agent. I told you I don't want to see the house with the listing agent. I want to be alone when I see this house. It's like that guy was creepy. He wouldn't even come in. He took off. I never heard from him again. It's like,
I
why would you want to
ugh,
be alone that bad?
nope. I listen to way too many scary podcasts that talk about murders and people you can't trust. And oh, so I get nervous. I actually, I will say, I always let my husband know where I'm going, when I'm going. I have him sometimes call to check in on me. I will send information to him, and I also have one of those pepper spray things that are tied to Bluetooth so that
Another one with the pepper spray. Love it.
I mean, I keep it in my pocket, or like sometimes I'm walking around the woods with people like by myself that I just met. Like I met some clients recently, and like when I met them outside in the woods to go walk through the woods. And it's like, I don't know. So I walk and I like kind of carry the pepper spray in my hand because it looks like it's part of my keychain. Cause you just, I don't know. You don't know. And it's scary sometimes.
So yeah, that's right. In your market, there's a lot of woods. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of places in your part of the state where if you scream, no one's gonna hear you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always available to come take a walk. I mean,
Yeah. You won't drive to a Foster for that. Then again, you're
I,
only 20 minutes away, right?
I've done it before. I've done it before. There have been people who I put that out there before where it's like if you need to show a house and it's in my kind of my area and you need someone to come and show it. I've done it before for people in our office that because safety first, you know what I mean? You never know, especially with the online lead thing where people are just meeting randoms
Mhm.
and anybody can create a profile and call Zillow and attempt a showing, and a lot of people, so you have two things going on. You got all these people with their photos on the for sale sign, right? So now you're a pretty girl and you got your face on the for sale sign. It's like, and I got a vacant house right here. Like that's seems to me a serial killer's
I will
that's
tell
like a
you,
menu right there.
oh, when I was younger, I did stupid things. So before I was even a real estate agent, I've owned properties, right? So I had a four family, like, I don't know, was this like 13 years ago? And I would go meet people for the apartments, but I was like, oh, I got to meet one person at a time, one group at a time. And it wasn't until later I learned when I hired a realtor, and she's like, no, I do group showings and everybody comes at the same time. And so I was like, because there was a couple times where I was in an apartment waiting for someone all by myself, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're on our way." And I would call them and I'm like, "Where the hell are you?" Like, and they didn't show up. But who's to say they weren't driving around and seeing that there was somebody else hanging around outside and decided not to come in because, they didn't want to not be alone. So I've
Right.
learned now, when I go in and I'm doing an apartment showing, I do an open house. It's for like an hour and everybody has to come at the same time because I am not showing it to individual people.
For sure. And you had mentioned earlier about the basement thing, which is where you find all kinds of goodies in the basement. So I'm going to tell you
Oh,
one that I found in a second, but I don't like going into basements. Like I'll in a vacant house, I'm not going in a vacant in a basement with a stranger. Like I'm not doing it. I'll wait till they leave and I'll go back in, check out the plumbing, right? Because if that's my job, I don't mind doing that, but I don't like going down in the basement. I was at this one house though, and there were all these boxes. And when you just tell, when you can see boxes like cardboard wine boxes, but you can tell they were made in like the 70s, right?
hmm.
So you didn't have to touch anything to see what was inside the boxes. And this guy must have had, if he didn't have $100,000 worth of old magazines in these boxes, like boxing magazines. Now they don't really make boxing magazines anymore like they used to, but I'm a sports fan. I'm a collector, and this guy had like Ring magazine going back to like pre Ali, which is like the golden era of boxing. And they were just sitting there in these boxes in this vacant freaking house, and it like broke my heart. Like that was somebody's collection, and whoever buys that house is going to get those boxes, right? Because you're going to just see them there, and they're probably going to end up in the trash. And
Yep.
my heart, I was like, I would do anything for these boxes, but there was no one to talk to. Like there was no,
No.
you know what I mean? There was no one to talk to about how to make a fair offer for the stuff. But um, that was depressing seeing that stuff left behind. And it's funny when you collect things throughout your life, right? So at some point, like we're all gonna go, and someone's gonna come sell this house, and they're gonna find stuff that means something to me, and they're just gonna throw it in a bleeping
Oh,
dumpster.
it's so
And it's
sad.
fucking depressing. I got this picture over here. It's a Norman Rockwell picture. And it was like my great grandfather's, then it was my grandfather's, now it's mine. If my kid doesn't want it, like someday they're gonna come here and clean up the house and be like, why does dad have this old picture sitting here in the basement?
Yeah. Yep.
It's so sad. So yeah, that is crazy when you have to like think about all your stuff, like just being in a dumpster someday, and some of it means so much. Like I collect globes. I like globes. I don't know why I collect globes, but I get them. And now that people know I like them, then that's like the easy gift, right? For my kids to get me. I must have 15 globes around this room. I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And they're all gonna be in the trash, and it sucks. But anyway, that guy with the magazines, like, man, it takes, you have to look at your ethics sometimes and be like, I know this is worth a lot of money, but there's no one to ask if I can have them or buy them, and so you leave them, and now they're at the landfill, I'm sure.
I will
Oh,
say,
one more.
oh, so go ahead.
No, 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 go.
As I say, the one of the houses that I bought was a multifamily and it was like a hoarder kind of house. And I had to pay to have someone clean it out and throw a lot of stuff away. But I just, all the stuff that was going, it was just so hard to see. Like there was a tread. I tried to give away some stuff for free, but like at some point you just gotta let it go. But I mean, like there was a treadmill, there was I did save a couple things and I put them to the side and I said, one day I'm gonna try to sell this. And I have an old school was it, there's a game board. It's like it's a green table and it's got all these games on it and stuff like that, but it's like really old school. And then I think there was an old school record player and a whole bin of records. I've got some cool things. I've saved them and they're buried in the garage now that is now cluttered at that house.
So did I ever tell you my book story?
No.
Okay. So I'm sitting at home, I'm minding my business, and there's another realtor. She used to be with our company. She's not with us anymore, but me and her, like, we were like this. And she says, I'm at this house, and we put it under contract, and the guy has like 4,000 books. Do you want them? Do you want any books? Because she knows I'm a reader and whatever. So me, I'll take all the books. I want them all. I said to my wife, I'm getting 4,000 books. even if I sell them for 50 cents a book, that's going to be 2 grand. It's worth my day to do this, right? So me and this girl, she gets her husband's truck, and I take my wife's truck. Coincidentally, her husband and my wife have the trucks, and her and I don't. We're we're carrying now. The books are all upstairs. We're carrying books in garbage bags. You can only fit so many books in a garbage bag, like before it's too heavy. All day. My wife's watching on the camera. She's like, she's in there with heels on. She's in the back of the truck. What are you doing? Anyway, I get all these books. Took up my entire garage. Couldn't park in the garage. Whatever. What I didn't realize is you can't just sell books. Like there's rules. It's not easy. It's not like you can't just put them online and sell them. There's copyrights and there's protections, and you have to scan certain things, and you got to buy certain things. So I had these books for like a year. I couldn't get rid of them. I was throwing them away in the trash, like 2 or 3 at a time, because some of them were like, I mean, you can't see, but I have probably a couple of hundred of them in my library, but a lot of them were like map books, like books of maps of like Europe. Like, how many maps of Spain do I need? This guy was a very interesting person. Where like some of them were not written in English, in whatever. So I had all these books. Finally, I got a client, and the client was telling me what she was going to do with her basement. And she said, "You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to make my basement a library." Sarah, do I have the start for you? So Sarah come to my house. She came to my house, her and her mother, and the person who referred her, they took all the books except for the ones I wanted to keep. So, but that was a wild story of these people. This guy had 4,000 books, and now you're old, and now you got to move it. Where the fuck are you gonna put them?
There's a lady that my husband delivers to out in Massachusetts, and I've been talking to her for about a year or so now because she wants to sell her house. She's like, I have too much stuff. I think she said she used to be a teacher, and her entire house, she's got tons and tons of books. She's like, I just don't know what to do with all of it. And I'm keep trying to offer her solutions, but one of the things that's holding her back is because her house is stuffed with books.
They're hard to get rid of. They really are, and you can't donate them. Like I figured I have I don't know what it is, Salvation Army or one of those places. You're supposed to give them their stuff. You give them your stuff. They'll take.
Big Brothers
Yeah,
Big Sisters will take them.
They'll take clothes and whatever, but they wanted no part of all these books. Like there's thousands, there were pounds and pounds. They go by the pound, hundreds of pounds of them. But yeah, that's going to be a problem for your friend with all those damn things. I would say 2 at a time, throw them in the trash, try and sneak them in.
Well, some people are attached to things like that. But going back to that house that I had to pay to have cleared out, after the people came in and cleared out most of the stuff, I still had lots and lots of things. Like the basement over there is kind of cool because I've got like a workshop in there. Now I kept the house. It's a multifamily. I kept it. I rehabbed it, and I'm renting it out now. But I'm down there with my son, and there's a whole box of Christmas decorations. I was like, this is cool. I guess the guy now, the person that lived at the house, it was, bless you. It was a brother and sister. The sister died years before, and she had these beautiful gardens. And then the brother stayed on, and the house just like basically he lived on the first floor. It had a lot of medical problems, and it was just packed with stuff. The second floor was mostly vacant for the most part, but like some nasty things here and there. But I'm in the basement, and I was like, oh, I guess he was really big on Christmas stuff. And we start going through the Christmas things. And I'm like, I could use Christmas decorations. My son's helping me. So this is 2020. So 4 years ago, my son's 10. And he picks up something. He's like, Mom, what's this? It is a strap-on vibrating dildo in the Christmas decoration. Yep. And as we start going through more stuff, we find.
Wait. You can't just go past that.
I'm like, yeah, that's something.
He was how old at the time? 14? 10. So 10. He definitely didn't know what it is at age 10.
No. Strap on, but it looks like a
penis. Did you tell him what it was?
I'm very open with my children, yes.
At 10 years old.
Yes. I am like, that is something, I didn't go into detail, but I'm like, that is something that people use for. He knew what sex was.
My kid's so sheltered. If Tommy comes down here right now and he'll want to know. He's a curious kid. I mean, yeah, kid.
Yeah.
With the Christmas decorations, that seems like
the thing that we found. He also came to me from a pile, and he's, hey, Mom, look at this. And it's a picture. It's a whole bunch of nude people at a nudist camp.
Oh.
Nudist camp. So we're in Connecticut. And it's funny because my husband actually delivers to this camp now, and he's out of everyone in his company. There's only a few drivers, but he's the only one that'll actually go there because the other, he's like, whatever, people do whatever they want to do, whatever. But some of the other drivers refuse to go there. But I guess the guy that owned the house had been a member at this place, and so he's got the picture. And then we also found pictures of you know how like when you used to get pictures developed in old cameras and stuff like that. So there was a whole wad of pictures and we're going through them. And so he used to, I guess, be a manager at McDonald's or something. So do you remember like Ronald McDonald, like the statue, the creepy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's, I guess, like a bench wherever he was with this statue of Ronald McDonald sitting down. And there's all these pictures of people sitting with the statue doing weird things.
No way.
Naked, with a banana, with like,
And these
sitting
people
and
took all the
posing.
pictures, they got them developed, and this guy ended up with a whole bundle.
Yeah, he had a whole bundle. So it's all pictures of people sitting doing things with the Ronald McDonald statue, posing together, posing just with the Ronald McDonald statue. In the midst of all the pictures, there was a picture of just a kid posing with Ronald McDonald with his clothes on, but it was just like it was just so. And so I did not, when we found the pictures, like I was like, I told my son, no, you cannot look at these. But it was kind of disturbing.
Interesting person.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a interesting buyers podcast at some point, and I have to make a note. I have to remember the guy that only wanted a house where he could make a dungeon, and it had to have six or more bedrooms because they lived in a community.
Oh God.
Yeah, so he ended up finding it not through me. He ended up having to go to Massachusetts, but we looked at a bunch of houses, and yeah, he was into some stuff, and he tried to ask me if I would be interested in learning more. I'm like, yeah, bro, that's just not a thing. That's just not a thing. It's funny though when you see a vacant house or something, you go through people's shit, and people are weird overall. We're just all crazy, I think, in our own way. Like you go to these flips, and one of my big things is like, even with some clients, it's like you don't have to empty it, I'll empty it. Like whatever's gonna make your life easier to make you sign right here, I'll worry about it another day, about how I'm gonna get this shit out of here. And then as you're doing it, you don't want to throw away things of value, right? So you can't just burn everything. And then you'll find, I never found that though. I never found that in a box of Christmas decorations.
No,
Holy.
of all the places to find these things. And it's so funny. Our podcast started off with the craziest things we've seen at showings and turned into a lot of the things we've actually found at properties.
Yep.
Holy crap, the things that come out. You had some, what about, you told me at one point there was a showing without a kitchen?
Yeah, right. So I had this listing, and it was a 4 unit, and one of the units, like the guy was home, his girlfriend was sleeping on the bed when we showed it, and there was no kitchen. And the guy was like a little bit wild. I've known him for a long time. Like he works in my town. Like everybody knows this guy. But it was like he's been living for years with no kitchen, and he would never let never let the owner put a kitchen in because he didn't want his rent to go up. And you just think like, imagine not cooking for that many years. Like that's impossible. Like to me, it's impossible. We use our kitchen literally every day. Like, and this guy was living with no kitchen. So when we were showing it as a 4 unit, we were losing people because they're like, well, I gotta have 4 units. Like that's not a unit if it doesn't have a kitchen. And there was the cabinets, but there was no plumbing, there was no water, except for in the bathroom, and it was wild. It's like, how do you live like that? Then the guy's rent, no wonder his rent was like $400 a month, where average rents in that market are like 12.
Yeah, that's nuts. I wonder like what he must have just lived on microwave dinners.
A lot of pizza boxes, I'm sure.
Oh, that's
Like
true
a lot
too.
of takeout. He worked at a restaurant. I bet he ate most of his meals at the restaurant.
That makes
But
sense.
it
That
definitely
makes
hurts you on the resale if you got a house with no kitchen. That's not a thing buyers are looking for.
Yeah. No. Oh, that's rough.
So yeah, that's that. We're gonna just so we can fill people in of what the intention is. We have different topics, and we're looking for contributions from other people, like whether within our company or different companies. I know I subscribe to a couple of blogs, and where we can take other people's stories and kind of share them, because there's a lot of people in our business that see way more houses than the general population. We can share some cool stuff, and I think that your story is the reason why I'll never help anyone with Christmas decorations again. But in our business, like, I don't do potluck dinners anymore. Like, I just don't do it.
Why?
Like, because I've seen too many houses, too many kitchens. You never know how people like live.
Ugh.
You got people who have like they dress nice and their car is nice, and then you pull up in the house and the house is like gross. We had one where my wife would not let me in the house when I got home. She made me strip in the garage, and like she threw me out a towel so I could go through the house and take a shower. These people were living, it was a 3 unit, and the third floor, the roaches were like flying.
Ugh.
And
Ugh.
I don't know how much weed or how many cats these people had, but the smell, my client called me 2 or 3 days later, like, you still smell? Like, you still
Ugh.
smell it? You had to walk around like this. So I took some video for my wife. Um, like, this is the grossest place I've ever been. And like, if you saw the woman that was living there, like, I don't know, she's the one that brings the cherry cobbler to the cookout. Like, I'm all set. I'm
Yeah.
just all set.
No, there's a lot. And it's sad because some people it's conditions that they have and
Yeah. Oh
stuff,
yeah,
but
definitely.
it's
Definitely,
true.
definitely.
Walking into places, I was looking at a house to potentially list a while ago, and I walked into like the first floor apartment, and like there was animal shavings on the floor, and like they just let, I guess, the animals run around, and there was like animal droppings on the floor. And there was another one I looked at. Unfortunately, it was a foreclosure at well after they moved out. You know, you don't know if people went into the house and stuff after and broke in, and but there was just stuff everywhere all over the floor. And then because it had been vacant for so long, the rats got in there. And
Uh,
like, I mean, you could, there was mattresses in the basement that were like chewed through. But even before, like, you could tell somebody was living down in the basement. It kind of reminded me of like the movies you see, like where there's like crack house, and I don't know, it was just creepy, nasty, gross things.
and it's sad, and you do wish, we're using stories of some of this stuff, right, for entertainment purposes. But when the people actually need social services, in a lot of cases, like, you really, you don't get to a point where roaches are flying around your house if like you're thinking clearly and like being responsible.
Right.
And I often feel bad when I see kids, like, you show a house and there's like a kid's room, and it's like, you're living like this, you poor kid. Like,
Yeah.
can we get these folks some help? And there's a lot of examples like that.
Yeah.
Hey, animal. There used to be a house near us when I was little. We used to break in the window. It was vacant forever and ever, and we used to break in the window and, like, I don't know, just be kids. Like, it was all scary, but the animals will take over a vacant property at a
Hmm.
certain amount of time. There must have been 20 cats living in that building.
Hmm.
Remember when they knocked that down? That was a
That,
big deal.
that's another reason why I won't go into basements by myself. I am so afraid of going into a basement and coming across like animals. Now, mind you, I used to have pet rats as a kid. I live in the woods. There's mice, there's rats, there's everything. But I don't like being in closed quarters with things that I don't know that are living. I don't want to
For
like get
sure.
startled or startle something that's going to attack me. So yeah, that's actually, it was a vacant house that I've been trying to buy for a couple of years now in town. And I went to go in the house to take a look because I hadn't looked at it in a couple of years, and I was trying to do another offer. And I walked in, and I was with my son, and this is only last year, so he's 13 at the time. So I walk in, and I'm like, oh my God, there's somebody in the house. And because we walk in and I hear like a bang, and like we run out of the house. And then a few minutes later, we see a cat running out. I was like, oh, it was a cat that was on like a windowsill or something that jumped down when it heard us come in the
Jumped
house.
down, made a noise,
Yeah,
right?
cute little cat.
Yep.
Scary though.
It's still scary when you don't know that they're coming.
Yes, I
I'm
don't
sorry.
like to be startled.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of being startled, especially in vacant houses. So listen, I think that I'm looking forward to what we're about to do. I think we have some cool topics. I think we're gonna have some cool contributions from others because I feel like everybody's got at least one best story. And I know a lot of people have reached out to me in terms of like, oh, I don't want to be on a podcast because a lot of people don't like seeing themselves on video. It's like, well, you don't have to watch it. Just give me the story and we'll relay the story, which will
Yeah.
kind of probably be the way.
Yeah, we're looking for stories, crazy buyers, crazy sellers, insane tenants, flips from hell. I know TJ and I have both flipped some houses, and
Yeah.
I know I like sharing my stories because I sure as hell learned a lot from my own mistakes. And I think looking back on the disastrous things that have happened, I can laugh now. It wasn't funny then, but it can be lessons learned from us that so that others don't have to make those
For
same
real.
mistakes.
Especially the flip stories. Like the flip stories, first of all, every flip is a flip from hell as far as I'm concerned, right? Because I've yet to do one where I just walk in, paint, and make $1 million. Like
Yeah, yeah,
that doesn't seem to be what's happening, at least in my experience. But everyone, there's a lesson learned on everyone, and I feel like that's how you get better at that side of the business. But to get
mhm,
back to like in real life, you get better by these things happening, and then the next time you know to look out for them, and then something else happens, and the next time you know to look out for that, you know.
yeah.
Um,
It's
yeah, so
compound learning.
yeah, and there's guys who have flipped 150 houses, and they're still finding new shit to mess with their budget, right? It happens all the time.
Yeah. So we're going to
It
talk
does.
about those things, and we're going to also at some point have some guests on that we definitely know a lot of other people in the industry. And but we would love for you guys to send us your stories. We actually have an email you could send them to. It's called the legit real estate podcast at gmail.com. So if you could send those stories there, reach out to us, tell us you want to share them and send them. We'll read them on here. We'll also be gathering some other stories and whatnot. And then we are still working all the new stuff out and trying to figure out how to get this all to work. So you will be able to find us on YouTube, on Facebook, um, and Instagram. We'll get that all figured out and uploaded, and just follow, like, subscribe, all those good things so that you can hear our stories when they come out.
Takes nothing to subscribe. Click the button, will you please? Click the button. I know that once we're working towards getting, once we get fully embraced into the legit podcast, into the legit podcast world, you'll also be able to find her on Parler on Twitter. So it's going to be easy to find. There'll be some good content, some fun, right? Because again, I'm so happy when you approach me with your idea of what a podcast should be, as opposed to it's just hard to sit around and talk about the market like it is. Like, do you really care what rates are? By the time you record a podcast,
It's changed.
by the time you record a podcast, edit it, and put it out, the market changed anyway. So I'm excited about what we're doing. I think it's going to be awesome. And unless you have anything else, I'll say good night.
No, I'll say good night too, and then we'll go on to the next one.